taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we have two video clips, and the first one that we're looking at, we are on straight, and you'll notice something here about the division. So on my side, I'm divisioned up here with Master Chief in his New Mexico, but we also have from NGA, Razio, Tanaka, and Halsey. So Razio is in his Nuremberg as well, and Halsey is in his Ognavoy. And then on the enemy team, we do have another NGA division, and over there we've got One Mad Trucker in his Minikaze, we have Never Forgotten in his Nuremberg as well, and then we have Doc up there in the Independence. So this is going to be an interesting battle, needless to say. I'm in my Nuremberg. I figured that, we all went tier 6s and we were doing time drops, obviously, right? There were a few of us doing it here last night, so we all agreed upon 6s, and I didn't have the 3 times for the Nuremberg yet, so I figured, yeah, why not take out the old Nuremberg here. It's a great little ship, especially since the patch now, where they reduced the chance that your engine and steering are going to get taken out just by, the drop of a hat, or I don't know, a feather just floating through the air and happens to touch your ship, right? That's not going to happen anymore. Now, that being said, if you are still a fan, well, I know I'm still a fan, but if you're a fan of the German cruisers and the Königsberg and the Nuremberg and Admiral Hipper, working your way up like that, then I would still suggest buying the modules and whatnot to get the ability to give your ship the ability, to reduce the chance of those things becoming incapacitated, as well as getting your captain abilities to ensure that if it does happen, you can at least still move. So that, of course, is Last Stand that I'm talking about in terms of captain abilities, and in terms of modules that you buy, there's some nice damage control modules there that you can help mitigate against the chance of this as well, and just adding to it as well. So I would still recommend doing that, but the ships as well are just, fantastic overall anyway. So immediately we start coming under fire. I'm up here in the north with Master Chief. We've got Razio and Hellsiege. They are down in the south, and down in the south they're facing off against the NGA platoon down there. So Never Forgotten, One Mad Trucker, and Doc. They are all down there, where Master Chief and I are up here. So obviously Master Chief and I are going to help try and support the north here in their endeavor to cap A, but we're also keeping an eye out for B, right? Because we don't want to get too far from B. We want to get ourselves into a position where we can take A and then easily move down into B, right? You see a lot of enemy destroyers off in the distance here. So the enemy team did start off with 4 enemy destroyers. We have 3 destroyers to our own. So there were a bit of destroyers here, but they weren't really that big of an issue for me at this time anyway. And as well, what was important for me too, keeping in mind I'm in a Nuremberg, right? So I can't go off my own and just own face, and you can't really do that with any ship really, but I'm not going to take as many chances as I would, say, in a Miyoko, for example. I'm going to stick close to Master Chief as well, support him, because he's really the heavy caliber, well, has the heaviest caliber guns here. He's going to be doing the most damage, and then maybe I can support whatever targets he's firing at, or at least screen as well for destroyers, because there are still 3 enemy destroyers on that team. So that's my plan, and you can see that I'm more or less circling in behind Master Chief at this time with that in mind. Out pops an enemy Königsberg, so I start thinking, alright, this is pretty good. So I've got armor piercing queued up. Empty my barrels of the high explosive that was in there. High explosive was ready to go just in case any destroyers decided to come in closer than what they were. We saw 2 of them earlier. And the enemy Königsberg gets lucky in that he was able to drive into some smoke that one of the enemy destroyers had laid down, and I lose sight of him for a while. And you can see, because I've lost sight of him, the amount of damage that I've taken just in a short period of time from the Königsberg. You really got to watch these Königsbergs and Nurembergs, because their rate of fire is just so significant that even though they're not doing a whole massive amount of damage every shot, they are still over time are just going to destroy you, like obliterate you. It's crazy. Anyway, the enemy Königsberg in the background there, he's more or less giving me a broadside, so this is giving me a good chance to get some armor piercing shots into him, and you'll notice start getting citadels on him, so really pound this guy down. Unfortunately, though, he is quickly moving, not necessarily out of my range, but yeah, you can see him over there, right? He's turning around and maneuvering. I've got some other enemy ships in the background as well that I wanted to take a look at, and he's kind of angled now as well, so it's a little harder to get him, and I don't want to chase that guy down and lose Master Chief, right? Because there are still some enemy destroyers around, specifically enemy destroyers that, no, I think actually one Mad Trucker's gone at this point, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, some, pickup people destroyers, but still, those can be fairly deadly here. We've got some enemy battleships over there, a Wyoming and a Congo, so I start putting shots into the Congo, or at least just some speculative shots anyway. Up pops a Konigsberg again, so I figure, okay, alright, we'll get a few shots into that guy, see what we can do, but I am still aware of the battleships over here, right? And here you can start seeing the great rate of fire of this ship. My shots that I took off at the enemy Konigsberg, they hit, and then shortly thereafter the shots on the Wyoming hit, and then still more shots are hitting as I've got salvos landing. You can really put a whole lot of shells downrange with this ship. It's really quite something. But you gotta, keep in mind the way I'm playing it here as well, right? Like, I'm not getting close in there. I'm making sure that the enemy ships have something else to shoot at that's not me, so then I can go to work and start getting these guys down. And right now, that's the role that Master Chief is playing for me, so that is pretty great. And in turn, right, the role that I'm playing for him is providing support and screening him from destroyers. So it's really, a mutually beneficial thing we've got going on here, and we're able to coordinate it quite nicely as well, just given the use of TeamSpeak, which is always, it just makes things easier anyway. So firing it on the Congo here, doing some pretty good damage to him, but I really wanted to start setting fires to him, right? I was surprised that I wasn't letting any fires to him, in fact, and up pops an enemy destroyer, so there he is there, so immediately I'm switching targets and I'm going to start firing at the destroyer. Something else, cruiser captains want to keep in mind, you don't just get tunnel visioned on the target you're firing at. Start firing at that target and not not fire at anything else until he's dead. That can be dangerous for a number of reasons, and specifically, if a destroyer pops up, you want to switch over to the destroyer immediately if you aren't already firing at a destroyer. It is your main purpose on the battlefield as a cruiser, and especially in this situation with this cruiser, you want to also stick close to a battleship to provide screen for the battleship, and then that way, you can both support each other, like Master Chief and I are doing here as well. So in the north, things aren't going fantastic. As a whole, things aren't going fantastic right now, right? The enemy does have all three caps, so that kind of sucks. You'll notice that in the south, our southern team down there is more or less completely gone. I think we have maybe one or two ships left down there, and then that's it. Then it's just going to be the ships up here in the north to kind of carry it off. And a little spoiler alert here, this is not a victory, but it is still an amazing game played by all of us here. So just sort of moving around as well, you can see that just putting some final shots into the enemy Wyoming there, and that's fantastic. So he's gone. Now I'm up to 2 kills. That's not too bad at all. I still have a decent amount of health, but more importantly, we just saw Master Chief. He has a lot of health left, so that is fantastic. You can see that none of the enemy destroyers that are remaining were able to get in there and get any torpedoes off at him. To be fair, though, most of them right now are now driving up to the north. At the beginning of the battle, they all more or less went down to the south and just destroyed our team down there. We don't have the A cap point, so I'm moving into A right now to start capping this, because we need to start taking at least 1 point here. We only have 4 of our ships remaining. One of them is our aircraft carrier, so that is good and bad. Basically, we only have 3 surface fighting vessels, but we do have air support right now. Keep in mind, though, that the enemy aircraft carrier is Doc, an NGA member on the enemy team, and he's not a bad enemy aircraft, or not a bad aircraft carrier captain, so he is keeping us on our toes. In fact, Runner more or less at this point will be under constant enemy air attack from torpedo bombers and dive bombers. At the beginning of the battle, right, his planes were focused on the south to support his teammates down there, rightly so. So we didn't come under that heavy air attack. But now that the southern ships down there are more or less all gone, I think there's only one remaining now. he's able to start focusing on us up here, specifically on Master Chief and myself. So yeah, fantastic. There is an enemy Konigsberg in the background. I'm pretty sure that, or no, that's an enemy Karl Shrew, I think, in the background there. He's almost dead, so I took some pot shots off at him. My plan here, now that A is capped, was to go down the channel and then use, because I don't know if you noticed, but since the patch as well, they opened up the little area there by the B cap point, the east side of the B cap point, right in between the extreme east of the map going into the B cap point. I'm sure you know what I mean, but anyway, they opened up that, so my plan was to go down the channel and circle around into the B cap point from there. But Master Chief is saying to me, you know, no, don't bother, just straight line over to B. That's where he's going, and I figure, alright, yeah, there are still 3 enemy destroyers that are unaccounted for, and not willing to leave Master Chief, because while I'm doing that maneuver, you know, he's going straight into B, and if he encounters a destroyer while he's doing that, I'm not going to be able to support him because I'm going to have mountains in between he and I. So, yeah, not willing to go over there, and now immediately turning back, going straight into B, supporting Master Chief as he's pushing along as well. I mean, at this point, he and I are the only ships remaining, and we still have our aircraft carrier. But our aircraft carrier, he wasn't... I don't know. Doc had commented on how he wasn't that great, and at this point I don't think he has very many planes. Our aircraft carrier, that is, doesn't have very many planes left, at least no attack aircraft left, I don't think, so that is kind of unfortunate. In comes some torpedo bombers. Now this is where I thought it was all over. I figured at this point Doc was going to get me. I'm turning, cutting my engine, changing speed, right? I don't want his ship or his planes to be able to line up on me, and he misses the launch entirely. I think there were some changes made to the aircraft carrier torpedo bombers, and that they can't launch so close to the islands like that, and so I was able to take advantage of that, and it saved me. Put some shots out on the enemy Karl Shrew there in the background, and then up pops this enemy destroyer. So alright, we need to start taking out this enemy destroyer immediately. I've got Master Chief more or less right behind me, so I'm screening him from this destroyer in hopes that I can kill the enemy destroyer without the enemy destroyer being able to put any torpedoes into Master Chief, because we need Master Chief's firepower right now, you know, no question about it. So I've got our high explosive loaded up, and you can see I'm just putting shot after shot into this enemy destroyer here, not taking any chances with him at all. He launched off his full salvo from the port side there, and you know, I'm able to avoid all of that without any problem at all. He's turning around for another salvo here, and I'm not going to let him launch those, or rather, he doesn't have another salvo, but he's turning around anyway, you know, trying to maneuver away from my torpedoes. I managed to land some final shots there and take him out for my 3rd kill, so fantastic. And we needed that kill as well, because you'll notice we don't have very many points at all, no. We need every kill right now. I put a few shots off into Doc there as I saw him pop up, and then I have to switch over immediately to this Minikaze. Now this was tragic. So I start firing into the Minikaze immediately. He has popped smoke, but I have my sonar ability on right now, so luckily I'm still able to see him, able to see the torpedoes he launched off at me, so I know that those are in the water, able to maneuver around for them, no problem at all. Minikaze starts maneuvering away, and he's again in smoke, and I really don't want to lose sight of him because I need to kill this guy. He needs to die for us to get the more of these points here. So if more shots going into him and he's almost dead, look how close he is. Really 1 or 2 more salvos and he will be gone. Unfortunately, he pops out of sight. He's gone. We never see him again, and we really needed to kill him. Because we didn't kill him, I think that's why we just didn't have the time to finish the map with a victory here. So we are capping the B point, and I now have a New Mexico in the background, so I immediately start putting shots into the New Mexico. You can see Doc and I were in Master Chief and I were in wild maneuvers to avoid the torpedo planes that Doc had coming in at us. We did avoid them, everything is fine, but unfortunately we did collide together, so it slows us down. Yeah, no real big deal. Immediately, both of us are putting shots into the enemy New Mexico there in the background. So I've managed to set him on fire, so that's pretty fantastic because I need that fire to burn and to get rid of its health. Here comes more dive bombers from Doc, and we're not willing to, Master Chief and I aren't willing to stick this close together and, you know, chance both getting hit by the same squadron, so we immediately peel away from each other, and that squadron ends up going after Master Chief. So I get spared, and my AA guns are supporting Master Chief here as well and trying to shoot down as many planes as possible. While all of this is going on, I need to continue firing at the New Mexico. The New Mexico, you can see, Popped out of sight, yeah. Oh, it's tragic. I mean, and the other destroyer that they have was smart, and he went right up there to A. And he is now capping the A point from us. So instead of having 2 points and having the cap advantage, we are now losing and have in fact lost the A and lost the cap advantage. Enemy New Mexico pops up again. I'm trying to maneuver around to see if I, continue to put shots into New Mexico, but also I really want to spot that enemy Minikaze, because I know just one more shot from him and I will be able to kill him. Enemy Minikaze here plays it smart. I have to maneuver away from these torpedoes, and in doing so I'm now on a course to collide with the island. I'm not able to maneuver back to clear the island, so that sucks, because if I could have came around the island, I think I would have seen the Minikaze, I would have been able to kill him and buy ourselves time for those extra points. Earned myself a Confederate here in the last few minutes of the battle, so that was pretty awesome as well. But you can see it did end in a defeat. But this was a great game. I mean, Master Chief and I played an awesome game, and the NGA members on the enemy team there played an awesome game as well. At the very least, I did manage to get over 1,000 experience base on a defeat, so that wasn't too bad at all. I don't know if you noticed, but since they patched, we are getting a whole bunch more experience now for capping bases. So that is a great way to make sure that, if you didn't do so much damage or, do too much in the battle, to at least get some points there to make it worth it. So just going back to port here, taking a look at the old Nuremberg shortly before we move into the next video. And you can see as well the new flag there that you earn for Confederate, so that's interesting. And of course now Kraken Unleashed has become the old Confederate flag. Moving into the next video clip here, you can see I'm in my Kagero. So this was a great little game that I had played before we actually started doing the time drops, and it wasn't too bad at all. Obviously I'm playing the Kagero here because I have the 3 times on, and I need to get that victory because, obviously I want to get the Shimikaze. That's the whole point of going up the Japanese destroyer line. Anyway, now, I don't know about you guys, but I've been having some pretty great results with these 3 times, because it's not exactly 3 times now, is it? It's 3 times in your port. Then if you put a flag on, your Confederate, well, the Kraken Unleashed flag now, I guess, you'll get, 50% extra. So now you're up to 3.5 experience. And then, with the event they have going on, where you, if you end up in the top 5 experience earners on the team, they give you an experience bonus as well. So eventually, you're up to about 3.75 experience there if you get a victory. So that can add up to some significant experience. I think so far the most experience I have, because I haven't been using any of the camos that they're, the special holiday camo for 30 gold, or the buying the camo on like the Minikaze, for example, those new permanent camos. I haven't done that because I'm just not willing to spend the gold on that stuff. It just seems pointless to me at this point anyway, because frankly, I'm not willing to put a whole bunch of money into just buying a bunch of things like that for my ships, and it's just camo and it's just going to amount to experience. I already have a bunch of free experience that I can use. I don't need any more. And I understand, yeah, great bonuses to your commanders, and that would be nice, but whatever, I'll just grind it out. Anyway, that being said, the most experience I think I've had so far with this ×3 event, I think I had a battle of 16,000 experience. It was while I was away, and I didn't record it because the monitor was all crazy, but anyway, yeah, I think that was the biggest one. This battle we're going to see does end with some pretty significant experience earned, which I was very pleased about, but it's not 16,000. Anyway, getting into the battle here. So you can see this is more or less a tier 10 game, and I'm immediately going to be capping the B point, right? Islands of Ice, and where I spawned, I'm in a destroyer. This is just where I'm going to go. Not only can I start capping the point, but I can start taking a look at the enemy ships, where they're going, maybe fire off a few torpedoes. At this point in time, with the research of the Kagero, I have the upgraded torpedoes at 20 kilometers, so they have a 20-kilometer range. I haven't really compared the torpedoes, to be frank, between the 20 kilometer and the 15 kilometer. I know they do more damage, but I didn't actually look at the speed and whatnot. I was just like, 20 kilometer torpedoes, put that on there and let's go. Anyway, I have to go back and take a look at that just to make sure that this is something that I want to use on the ship, but I've been liking it so far. lining up shots. I mean, obviously, if you're shooting at something that's like 16 kilometers away, chances of you hitting that target are very, very slim. What I've been using the range for on these targets on these torpedoes is for situations at the beginning, kind of like this, where you have sometimes you'll be in a situation where the majority of the enemy ships are more or less in a lemming train, going in all in one direction, big line of them. And this usually happens at the beginning of the battle, so you got to get yourself in position really quick. There's some torpedoes off to, what is that, a Baltimore? Yeah, he's having a bad day now. So 2 hits on him. But anyway, at the beginning, you can launch your torpedoes, say just choose a target that's usually at the front of the lemming train line, and fire torpedoes at that person. Now, the torpedoes will most likely miss that first target, but if they have the range like the 20-kilometer torpedoes do, they will just keep going on, and they will just plow through the enemy ships that come behind the leading ship, and they'll hit them. So that's the advantage of having these longer range torpedoes. Using them in that fashion, usually at the beginning of the battle, or if you find a train of enemies, a big line of enemies, that's really where the range is going to be paying off. If you expect to hit many targets, at a significant range that you're lining up for, like want to shoot at that Amagi off in the distance there, for example. He's quite a ways away, but within my range, so firing torpedoes that I've been expecting them to hit, that's a really, really big thing to ask for. It's not going to happen. I like to close the range, obviously, with these torpedoes, and generally speaking with these torpedoes, I'm firing 12 to 8 kilometers is usually my engagement range with the torpedoes here, and yeah, that's well below the 20-kilometer range, but it's nice to have the 20-kilometer range, and that's why I'm using it right now. So the shots I had in the Baltimore, that's usually an exception. As you saw, I did line them up, and the Baltimore just drove right in a straight line, hit them with those 2 torpedoes. So an exception to the rule there anyway. But now that we have B, you can see that the enemy is up there in the north. They took A, but I'm not too concerned with A because the majority of my ships are fighting it out for B, or defending B at this point, but trying to take C. And you can see that there are quite a few enemy battleships down here as well, and being in a destroyer, battleships are kind of a big deal for me, kind of something that I want to shoot at. You can see as well the torpedoes that I had off in the distance, right, taking shots at the enemies at really far ranges. You can see where that has got me. Those torpedoes, aren't going to be hitting anything, or at least aren't going to be hitting the target I was aiming at. They're more or less in the water in case there happens to be an enemy destroyer out there, or something I didn't see. Maybe they'll hit that guy. Maybe. Anyway, coming down into C, and I'm going to start supporting my ally destroyers here. Got to be really, really careful though in these situations. You really, really do not want to end up torpedoing an ally. That is something that is just, you do not want to have happen. So because I have so many friendly destroyers around as well, right, you really have to keep your head on a swivel, taking a look in all directions before you fire anything, because you might not even be paying attention, and there could be an ally destroyer like just circling around you. He just cuts in front of you for whatever reason. You fire torpedoes, and it kills him. Even though he cut in front of you, it's still your fault. You should have checked before you fired your torpedoes, yeah. Just the way it is. So, as well, firing off these torpedoes at the enemy battleships there, and taking a look around as well, you can see other enemy battleships and other enemy ships have all embedded themselves into these little islands of ice down here in the southeast portion of the map. So that's my ultimate objective here as well. Obviously, though, want to take the point before we go down there and take a look at those guys. You'll notice too in my Kagero that I'm alternating my torpedo shots, right? It's so important. I've talked about it before, and well, I think it's so important. You don't have to do it obviously, but I think it's really crucial with destroyers that only have 2 torpedo launchers like this. So you alternate between them, right? You fire one at one target, and then wait maybe 30 seconds, and then fire others at another target. Or just leave that other launcher in reserve in case something pops up in front of you, right? Like this Shimikaze that just popped up in front of me here. I don't have any torpedoes to deal with them, so immediately start shooting my guns off at him, right? But I find that that's the best strategy, because then usually instead of having to wait the full reload time for both torpedo tubes, you can have, you can cut it down to maybe a 30-second reload. Plus, the benefit here of picking 2 targets, 1 target for each torpedo launcher, in most cases, especially when you're firing at long ranges like this, is you're doubling your chances of actually getting a hit with those torpedoes. If you fire both spreads at 1 target and the target's like 12 kilometers away, and he happens to move, and none of those torpedoes hit, well, now you have to wait the whole time for your torpedoes to reload. You never got anything. You basically just did nothing that whole time, right? So that is why I would recommend alternating your torpedo launchers when you only have 2 on a ship. Alternating those launchers, choosing targets separately as well, firing 1 spread at 1 target, waiting 30 seconds, finding another target and firing another spread at him, getting that cycle going with them. Then you'll find that, generally speaking, you always have maybe a 30-second reload in between your torpedoes, which is nice. And that's how I use the Kagero. It's how I use the Hatsuaru as well, and that's where I first started talking about this strategy as well. So getting back into the game, you can see that we are still fighting it out for C down here. Now, while all that was going on, my allies were able to push to the north, take out the enemies up there, and cap the A point. So that is fantastic. We now have the cap advantage. You can see enemy ships are regrouping down here at C. Some of them anyway, have come out of those islands to the extreme southwest, and they're kind of regrouping in the south with the intention, at least it looks like they are going to be putting some pressure on the B cap point. No big deal. We do have some allied ships up there at B to defend the point and engage those enemy ships as they come up. In the meantime, I can continue to work my way down south and cap this C point finally, while taking shots off at enemy ships that are in amongst the islands. This enemy destroyer pops up. I think, I'm not really sure what it was. Maybe it was a Fletcher. Anyway, it was unfortunate because he didn't have very much health, so I was able to quickly finish that guy off with just my deck guns, so that's not too bad at all. And it gives me 1 kill so far for the game as well. Not too shabby. Because there's islands and icebergs I guess around, I immediately pop at a sight, so I'm not a target anymore. I do actually manage to cap the point, which is not too bad at all. Well, assisted with some allies here obviously. So we managed to take the point, so that is fantastic. Now just cruising around, fully aware of the fact that there are some battleships and cruisers in here in the islands. Also, there are going to be some battleships and cruisers making their way north to B. So this is an excellent opportunity to take some shots off at them with my torpedoes and maybe engage them at a really close range. That way, hopefully not giving them that much chance to actually avoid my torpedoes and get some more hits and maybe another kill, right? So there is an enemy there. We're lining up on him now. I haven't been seen as of yet. I did buy the concealment module for the Kagero, so now the Kagero has all of those modules ready to are on it as well. So that reduces my detection range here on the Kagero significantly. So fantastic. Managed to get a spread off at the enemy ship there that was in the south, and now eyeing these guys here in the north. Taking a look at what they're doing, up pops another enemy battleship. He's fairly close, so I'm going to put a spread into him. At least take a look at putting a spread into him, right, just to see. He is in a reverse though. Yes, this was crazy. Didn't think that he would continue the reverse like he did, but apparently he did. My torpedoes over there hit the enemy battleship, managed to get 3 hits on him, and that is a devastating strike and another kill. So fantastic. That is not too shabby at all. Reloading on the torpedoes now, just waiting for that, but sizing up other enemy ships as I see them. We have all 3 cap points as well, so the enemies are really scrambling here to try and do something. We still have the Amagi over here to the east now, well, southeast we'll say. There's the Tirpitz that I launched those torpedoes off at. Yeah, he was in a full reverse. He's still reversing. I was really surprised to see that. I didn't expect it at all. Now that my torpedoes are cutting in front of him, though, he fully is aware that I'm here, so obviously he's going to be maneuvering around, so I'm not really concerned about trying to line up torpedoes on that guy again when I've got this Amagi here. So the Amagi is getting really close at this point, right? My torpedoes are just about reloaded. The Amagi's in a slow turn, so I want to kind of anticipate where he will be at the point that my torpedoes will be there to ensure I get as many hits as possible. That's what I'm trying to do anyway. But I'm waiting for my ally torpedoes to move in there, right? So that the enemy Amagi can do his maneuvers, take the hits, and then get himself back on a course that he's satisfied with, and maybe he'll hold that course for a little while. Unfortunately, I do get detected because in all of this maneuvering, he was able to close the range on me, so he now is fully aware of where I am. I fire off my spread of torpedoes, and I'm going to line up a second spread of torpedoes. I'm doing this because, you know, the Amagi is so close at this time, and this is kind of why I like having the alternation of my torpedo tubes, because, you know, if I didn't have that second spread, then that first spread that I shot off in the Amagi would have, you know, that would have been it. Even though, yeah, we do win the battle, so those torpedoes didn't have time to hit anyway, but whatever. Not bad results here. 309,000 credits. You can see 11,200 experience. So that's what I'm talking about with the this whole ×3 event going on with your flags. You can even boost it more, right? If I had some camo on there, that would have been something else to see. But anyway, not too shabby at all. That's today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy it. You know, leave any comments you have for me there in the comment section below. Love reading those and responding back. Hit the old like button if you liked today's video as well. Yeah, and as always, you know, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.